Evershade's silence, Jonathan's arrival and the lighthouse's promise. Jonathan's quiet anticipation was palpable as he neared the eerie town of Evershade. The closer he got, the more he could feel an unsettling shift in the atmosphere. The palpable silence that enveloped Evershade set an unsettling mood, wrapping around him like a thick fog. It was as if the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for something or someone. As Jonathan caught his first glimpse of the lighthouse, it stood as a beacon in the oppressive quiet. Its presence somehow both comforting and ominous. The deserted streets of Evershade stretched before him as he drove through, the eerie stillness making him feel like he was the last person on Earth. This solitude was what Jonathan had sought, but the reality of Evershade's silence was more haunting than he had imagined. Jonathan arrived in Evershade with expectations of tranquility, a place where solitude would be his muse. Yet, upon entering the silent town, he found an eerie reality that clashed with his dreams. The oppressive quiet weighed heavily, challenging his notions of peace. His first glimpse of the lighthouse offered a flicker of hope, a beacon in the unsettling stillness. It stood solitary against the gloomy backdrop, promising a haven from the pervasive silence. Jonathan felt drawn to it, believing it might hold the key to the solitude he sought. Driving through Evershade's deserted streets, Jonathan couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The absence of life was unnerving, and the silence seemed to echo with whispers of the past. This was not the serene retreat he had envisioned, but a place touched by an unspoken dread. Internally, Jonathan debated his quest for solitude. Evershade, with its ghostly quiet, offered more isolation than he had bargained for. He wondered if true inspiration could flourish in such a void, or if the eerie silence would instead consume his thoughts, leaving him more lost than ever. The town, devoid of welcoming faces or signs of life, felt like a scene from a forgotten story. Jonathan pondered the history that had led to such desolation, feeling both intrigued and apprehensive. The mystery of Evershade and its lighthouse beckoned, yet he couldn't ignore the creeping sense of foreboding. As Jonathan neared the lighthouse, his curiosity piqued about its history. Its stoic presence hinted at countless stories untold, standing guard over Evershade for generations. He wondered who had kept the beacon alight through stormy nights, and what tales of solitude and sacrifice the walls might whisper. The lighthouse, to Jonathan, symbolized a beacon of solitude in his quest for quietude. Its isolated stance against the backdrop of Evershade's eerie silence seemed to promise a sanctuary from the world's clamor. In its unwavering light, he saw a metaphor for his own search for inner peace amidst life's storms. Upon arrival, the lighthouse felt less like a structure and more like a character in the landscape of Evershade. Its aged exterior, battered by time yet standing resilient, seemed to hold secrets. As if it were an old sage, it promised Jonathan stories of the past, waiting to be uncovered. Standing at the doorstep, Jonathan's heart raced with a blend of excitement and apprehension. The threshold before him marked the boundary between the known and the unknown. He was caught in a moment of hesitation, contemplating the eerie quiet that lay beyond. It was as if the lighthouse itself was inviting him to step into a different realm. As he entered, a chill swept over him, unexpected and unexplained. The interior of the lighthouse presented a stark contrast to its stoic exterior. It was a mix of neglect and timeless charm, with each step echoing through the halls as a testament to its long-standing watch over Evershade. Jonathan felt like an intruder in a time capsule, stepping into a story much larger than his own. As Jonathan crossed the threshold of the lighthouse, an unexpected chill wrapped around him. This was no ordinary shiver. It felt as if the very air was laden with whispered secrets and long-forgotten stories, eagerly waiting to brush against the warmth of the living to make themselves known once again. Inside, the lighthouse bore the marks of neglect and a timeless charm that coexisted harmoniously. Dust particles danced in the shafts of light that pierced through the grimy windows, illuminating scenes of a life paused. Every step Jonathan took echoed, as if he were intruding upon a sacred silence that had reigned supreme for ages. With each step further into the lighthouse, Jonathan felt increasingly like an intruder in time. The silence within was more profound than the oppressive quiet outside, enveloping him in a thick, almost tangible air of anticipation. It was as if the lighthouse itself was holding its breath, watching his every move. Among the decay, Jonathan discovered remnants of the lighthouse keeper's life. A worn-out chair by a dusty table, a faded photograph whose faces had been claimed by time, and a logbook with entries that abruptly stopped years ago. These relics whispered of loneliness and a steadfast duty to guide others. The first whisper of unease unfurled in Jonathan's mind as he delved deeper into the desolate lighthouse. It wasn't just the isolation or the tangible remnants of the past that unsettled him, but a creeping sensation that he was not alone. The air seemed charged with the presence of something unseen, watching, waiting. As Jonathan navigated the dimly lit corridors of the lighthouse, a whisper of unease began to curl around his thoughts. The air felt thick with silence, yet it seemed to press against his ears, hinting at secrets hidden in the shadows. Each step he took felt heavier, burdened by the lighthouse's desolate past. His determination to peel back the layers of the lighthouse's mysteries grew with every room he explored. Dust-laden surfaces and abandoned artifacts whispered stories of a life once lived here, yet abruptly halted. Jonathan couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched, as if the lighthouse itself was scrutinizing his every move. The sensation of not being alone intensified when Jonathan stumbled upon an old, leather-bound journal. Its pages, yellowed with age, contained entries that spoke of strange occurrences and unexplained events. The realization that he was standing in a space where the veil between the natural and supernatural seemed thin was inescapable. Venturing further, Jonathan encountered what could only be described as the first tangible sign of the supernatural. A cold draft led him to a room where the temperature inexplicably plummeted. The air shimmered, and for a fleeting moment, he thought he saw a shadow flit across the wall, leaving him questioning his sanity. As night encroached, the lighthouse seemed to come alive with whispered secrets and hidden truths. The past began to unravel before Jonathan, inviting him deeper into its embrace. With each revelation, it became clear that the lighthouse was more than just a beacon. It was a keeper of stories, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. Jonathan's realization dawned on him as he explored the lighthouse's shadowy corners. It might just be the muse he sought. The eerie silence, the whispers of the past echoing through its walls, seemed to fuel his imagination, igniting a spark of inspiration that had long eluded him in the bustling city. The contrast between the lighthouse's serene facade and the disquiet lurking within its aged walls intrigued Jonathan. It was as if the lighthouse harbored a dual personality, calm to the observer, yet tumultuous for those who dared to uncover its secrets. This duality beckoned him, promising stories waiting to be told. Deciding to stay despite the unsettling atmosphere marked a pivotal moment for Jonathan. The lighthouse, with its neglected charm and mysterious air, felt like the perfect setting for his next project. He was determined to delve deeper, to understand the essence of this place that whispered of solitude and secrets. As night fell, the lighthouse transformed. What was once a silent guardian by day now seemed more foreboding, casting long shadows that danced in the moonlight. The nighttime brought a different energy, an ominous vibe that permeated the air, making every creak and whisper seem louder, more urgent. Jonathan's first night in Evershade was anything but restful. The strange sounds and soft whispers that filled the lighthouse seemed to echo the town's desolate streets, weaving a tapestry of mystery and unease. Yet, amidst the unsettling atmosphere, A story began to unfold, one that Jonathan was eager to capture. As Jonathan spent more nights within the lighthouse's ancient walls, a profound connection began to form between him and the enigmatic past of the structure. The whispers of history seemed to echo through the corridors, beckoning him to delve deeper into the mysteries that lay dormant within its confines. The determination to uncover the lighthouse's secrets consumed Jonathan, driving him to sift through old records and artifacts left behind. Each discovery felt like a piece unraveling from the fabric of the unknown, offering glimpses into the lives of those who had once called the lighthouse home. The silent town of Evershade served as a constant, eerie backdrop to the unfolding mystery of the lighthouse. Its deserted streets and vacant eyes of windows watched silently as Jonathan ventured deeper into his investigation, the town itself holding its breath as if awaiting the revelation of its own secrets. Amidst the suffocating silence, Jonathan found it challenging to concentrate on his work. The oppressive quiet seemed to weigh heavily on his shoulders, stifling his thoughts and muddling his focus. Yet, it was within this very silence that the seeds of inspiration began to sprout, urging him to persist. The lighthouse, with its somber history and haunting ambience, began to influence Jonathan's creativity in unexpected ways. Ideas flowed more freely, as if the walls themselves whispered stories to him, urging him to weave tales that bridged the gap between past and present. Jonathan's quest for solitude in Evershade brought him more than he bargained for. The lighthouse, his chosen haven, began to stir a restless unease within him. This unease was a stark contrast to the burst of creativity he initially felt. The isolation he sought seemed to carry a hidden cost, intertwining inspiration with a creeping sense of dread. As the days passed, the lighthouse revealed itself to be both muse and mystery. Its silent walls, which had once promised a peaceful retreat, now echoed with whispers of its past. Jonathan found himself caught in a web of inspiration and intrigue, each revelation about the lighthouse fueling his curiosity and his art. However, this burgeoning relationship with the lighthouse's mysteries was not without its shadows. Jonathan's sense of unease began to deepen, a constant reminder that solitude might not be as serene as he had imagined. The whispers in the silence grew louder, seeping into his consciousness, blurring the lines between reality and imagination. The quiet town of Evershade, with its deserted streets and oppressive silence, set the stage for these revelations. The stillness that Jonathan had once sought now seemed to harbor secrets of its own, each quiet corner a prelude to deeper mysteries yet to be uncovered. As Jonathan settled into his first night in the lighthouse, the strange sounds and whispers that filled the darkness marked the beginning of a journey into the unknown. The unsettling quiet of Evershade was no longer just a backdrop to his solitude, but a gateway to revelations that would challenge everything Jonathan thought he knew about seeking inspiration in silence.